This is where the Trump rhetoric gets dangerous. There was a Trump rally in Richmond, Virginia yesterday. A video has emerged of a conflict that took place. Violence broke out at this rally. Now, in the context of this, Trump was giving a speech where he was ratcheting up. He was bringing the audience to a frenzy on a string of anti-immigrant quotes, just really like getting everybody stirred up. People had showed up to protest. Pro-immigrant groups and also Black Lives Matters were there protesting and started getting booed down by the crowd. And as they were getting booed down, Trump said, he pulled out the classic, oh, that's what's great about America. We can all protest and do all that. He did that. But his supporters basically broke out in violence against these protesters. And there's some very ugly video that has emerged of one person getting spit on. We can just check it out.
Look at this racist. Don't touch me. I'm from here, motherfucker. I pay taxes like you do.
Now, this to me is what's become scary about the rhetoric that Donald Trump is whipping up. It's because people feel emboldened, especially when they get together in this group dynamic. Right. They feel emboldened to sort of gang up on other people.
Has he said anything in specific reference to this instance? Was he aware of what happened in Richmond?
He was aware that somebody was shouting him down while he was giving his speech. He knew that there were people in the audience who were protesting against him. And then his crowd rose up and started booing them. He was aware that there was that incident. And he said, yeah, you know, the shame of this is that those people are ones that are going to get the headlines and not you people. Well, what ended up getting the headlines was those people who ended up actually getting violent with the protesters. And this guy, as we saw, actually spitting on one of the protesters. These were peaceful protesters. They weren't there to create violence. They were there to exercise their First Amendment rights, which hopefully the Trump supporters support. Hopefully they support the First Amendment, not just the Second Amendment. Now, these videos came courtesy of a couple of journalists who were on the scene and shot these. These are two separate videos that we saw from different angles, one from Jeremy Diamond and also one from Garrett Hack, and we thank them both for those videos. This, to me, though, points to something very dangerous going on in the Trump campaign, because this isn't the first time we've seen this sort of vitriol coming out from his supporters.
Yes, this was, I mean, it was replicated, or it seems to be replicated in part the comment that a supporter made last month in regards to, quote, something along the lines of Muslims are the problem in this country and the president is one. And at that point, it was noted that Trump did not correct him on either of those two statements, both of which are incorrect. And he then doubled down on that and said, I'm not morally obligated to do so either. So I would agree with you. He has form in this, Trump. He seems to be abdicating any kind of accountability or responsibility for his role in this. And actually, to your point, seems to be whipping people up. Yeah. I mean, what we saw here is no coincidence as well. What we didn't perhaps point out, it's obvious, but it kind of bears pointing out, the guy who was spat in his face, he was a Latino individual.
Yeah, and the guy, so, you couldn't hear him in the video, but the guy who did the spitting was yelling, go back where you came from.
Right. And the guy's like, I'm from here.
I'm from here, yeah. Then he spits on him. And this is not an isolated incident. And this is why it seems very dangerous. Donald Trump is there in his business suit and his tie and everything like that. But this takes on the color of something we don't want to see happen here in the United States.
For sure.
You know, this is one step away from a brown shirt.
Right. It's xenophobia masked as corporate. You know, as you said, dressed up very nicely in a $10,000 suit and a $5,000 watch or whatever it is. And it is what it is. It's ugly xenophobic. Mob mentality type of politics.
And you're taking some people who he's basically giving voice to their frustration. He's getting them whipped up. It's a group mentality where it's easy to turn on individuals, and because there's other videos available of this situation that went on here, and people were they were like a dog pack coming after these protesters. It was a dangerous situation. This is not something that we want to see escalate. And he's got to take responsibility for the way. And I don't use this lightly. I don't make this comparison lightly. But this is the same dynamic that was taking place early on when Hitler was coming to power and he was whipping up frenzy against Jews as being the problem in their country, and turning all those disaffected people against the Jews. And we saw the same sort of mentality happening here. Yeah. So it has to stop. He has to take responsibility.
And it's being replicated throughout Europe. We've talked a lot about it. You know, in the rise of the far right and the rise of the fact that the far right is now no longer marginalized. It's much more mainstream now because people are searching for easy, quick answers, and it's just it's very simple just to demonize people in that way, erroneously.
Yeah, he has to take responsibility. Now, this quote comes from somebody who showed up, a Republican who showed up to attend the rally just to check out what Donald Trump was about, and he was a witness to this, and this is how he described it. This is Daniel Riley, Republican from North Carolina. I was about a foot away when this irate gentleman in the crowd spit in another gentleman's face. Trump's security team started leading several people out. There was a gentleman directly across from us who was extremely irate, screaming, "Go back where you came from," and several expletives. A gentleman.
A gentleman, at least, right.
That was doing that. So this was an account from somebody attending. Other people said, "Oh yeah, these protesters, they stirred up violence." But we could see the video about how these people, they were there simply to protest, which it may be annoying, but is their right to do. They should be able to protest without expecting violence against them. This is something dangerous coming up in the Trump campaign.
And it's not enough to excuse, and he hasn't actually said anything directly, but I can almost hear him saying something. Well, they're passionate. People are passionate about the crisis that our country is in.
That's what he said.
That is not in of itself. That is not an excuse. That is not acceptable. That is irresponsible. You are running to be the leader of the free world. If you're genuinely wanting to do that, if that is really your intent, or if you're just showboating in the most grotesque fashion, I don't know. Whatever it is, you have a responsibility and accountability when you take the public stage.
When a couple of drunk Boston Red Sox fans beat up a homeless man because he appeared to be not from America in the name of Donald Trump,
that's right.
He did not come out and denounce it. He said exactly what you said, which was, hey, you know, I attract passionate people. This is the problem we have. All right. We'd love to know your thoughts on this. We always appreciate what you have to say. Thanks for subscribing to the Lib TV.